Hello, I'm the Pirate Novelist, your captain through the rough seas of media, and this is a response video. So this is a response video for Chris over at Dune 1973's channel. Chris put out a video of 5 albums for metalheads that are not metal. So I thought I'd go ahead and put my 2 cents in. I picked out about 8 or so to show you. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. If you have not checked out Chris's channel, I'm going to leave a link in the description below for you to check his channel out. He's mostly CDs, but he has an awesome selection and shows a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm glad to throw up a response video for this thread. The first one I would like to show is by a band called Seether, and it is Poison the Parish. This album is heavy and dark, but at the same time it has light elements, mainly because Let You Down reminds me of a Tool song. It is very heavy on guitar work. Sean Morgan produced this record, and it is absolutely fantastic beginning to end. But I think just because of the song, Let You Down and Betraying the Grade, I think this is really good for a metalhead. It's still heavy rock, but it's not necessarily, thrash or speed metal or anything metal. It's more of a heavier rock, and it's not necessarily light, but at the same time, I think a metalhead would absolutely enjoy this album. Coming up next would be a record by my favorite band, Paramore, and it is Paramore's Riot. The reason being is for the song Let the Flames Begin. This is arguably one of my favorite songs to hear live. Paramore has not recently played this live because they just came out with their new album After Laughter, but my goodness, the guitar work on Let the Flames Begin, and subsequently on their next record, which I don't have, their self-titled record, Part 2, is really fantastic. And I think non-metalhead would really like this, especially for Let the Flames Begin, and just Hayley Williams' punky-ass vibe, and the whole vibe of this record is just so different and so awesome. I think a metalhead would really like this, just because of the stellar guitar work. And yes, there are some lighter songs on here, but I think this is absolutely fantastic. Here, I'll get you the picture of the band here. But mainly for Let the Flames Begin, I think this would be an absolutely fantastic record for a non-metalhead. I am a metalhead myself, but when I come back to this, I just think of the times that I've heard Let the Flames Begin live, and just how absolutely blown away I was. And I've seen a lot of bands live. I've seen Alice in Chains. I've seen a couple of symphonic metal bands live, like Amaranthi, Within Temptation, and Epica, and I think these guys can hold a T to them just because of their attitude and just all the stellar work that goes into all of their music. It's a little darker on some of the themes, especially like When It Rains, Miracle, We Are Broken, so I think just because of the relatively dark and punky tone, I think that's why this one, Paramore's Riot, would be a really good choice for a metalhead. The next one, I'm going to try and speed through these as quickly as possible. The next ones are by the same band, and I just talked about these guys recently in my previous video about the 10 grails that I'm looking to get. But I wanted to highlight these 2 bands mainly because of the dark tones in the records and the absolutely stellar drum work. And these are both studio releases by 21 Pilots. This is Vessel and Blurry Face. Very, very dark tones. They're not necessarily rap, but at the same time, it does have some hip-hop elements to it. They have some hip-hop elements to them. The entire album of Blurry Face, I actually have this one set to my own way. What's nice about the vinyl release is you can actually create your own version of the cover because of all the drawings for the various songs. But I mainly chose Blurry Face here, put this down for just a second, because of the dark tones. The entire album is about Tyler. Tyler's the main singer, and 21 Pilots is Tyler Joseph and Josh Dunn. It's mainly about Tyler going through and fighting a man named Blurryface. He's all of your insecurities. He is the dark version of you. And everybody has a blurry face inside of them. And that's what I really like about this. Stressed Out is a single that gets played quite a lot. Ride is pretty good. But I have to say, Lane Boy, The Judge, We Don't Believe What's on TV, and definitely Not Today are really highlights of this album. And I think a metalhead would really enjoy. Just because Lane Boy, yes, it has the hip-hop elements to it, but don't let that turn you off, because there is just some stellar drum work by Josh, and just, I'm going to mess this up badly, but just the way he puts fluidity into his drum work. And that's one of my favorite things about metal albums, is the drum work. And that's why I chose Metallica's Saint Anger as one of my first Metallica vinyl records, is because I loved the drum work in there. And I could say, that's controversial, but I really liked the drum work, and drum work is something that I absolutely enjoy, and especially on Vessel. Oh my goodness, Guns for Hands to me is one of the most metal, non-metal songs out there, and it just gets me going. And Hold On to You, House of Gold, there is definitely a metal spirit lurking in these two albums, and I think a metalhead would absolutely enjoy these two albums. We're going to keep things rolling here, and we are going to go with Nirvana's Nevermind. This one was probably coming in some regards, but Smells Like Teen Spirit, How Could You Not, In Bloom, Lithium, Territorial Pissings, my goodness, Drain You. Oh my gosh, Drain You is arguably my favorite song on this album, and just from the guitar work and everything, just the three-piece set, Kurt, Kurt's guitar work is fantastic. Dave's drumming is fantastic. Chris's bass work is absolutely fantastic. And if a metalhead hasn't heard this album, shame on them, because this is grungy, it's dark, it's so completely different, and especially on the song Polly. I've watched a couple of Nirvana documentaries, and just the story behind Polly is just so dark and different. And I think a metalhead would definitely get into the subject matter just for Polly alone. So I definitely recommend Nirvana's Nevermind. And I also do apologize if some of these are just completely, safe, or if they are ones that have already been suggested, or ones that are like commercial bands. I have some obscure stuff, but a lot of the things I have is some radio stuff, some not radio stuff, and a lot of times I like non-radio singles and non-radio hits. So, speaking of that, we are going to switch over to a band that's on the radio and is absolutely familiar with the radio, and that is Pearl Jam. And I have selected two albums. I'm actually removing them from their protective sleeve so I can get no glare here on the screen. The two albums I have selected from Pearl Jam for this is Yield is the first one, and their self-titled Avocado record as their second one. With Yield, the main reason I chose this one is a couple of reasons. The guitar work on this is absolutely stellar, and I feel this is an underrated album. And the main reason I picked this one is for this song right here at the end of side A, Do the Evolution. My goodness, when you hear this live and the way Eddie's vocals are, it's just gritty, dark, insane. And when I thought of this list, when I was going to do a response, this album was the first one to pop into my head, especially for Do the Evolution. Brain of J is an absolutely awesome opener. You got Faithful, Given to Fly, Wish List. Pilot is probably another very good pick for a metalhead if they want to get into a little bit of a softer side of rock. Lowlights, awesome. Push Me, Pull Me, All Those Yesterdays. This is an absolutely fantastic album, and I think a metalhead would absolutely enjoy this. And the reason I picked the Pearl Jam Avocado record is because of the time period that they wrote this. Pearl Jam and I'm not going to get into it, is a very political band. And the political climate at the time of this, which again I'm not going to get into, was very kind of interesting. So it came with the lyric book, so I'm just going to put this down for a second. The time that this came out, it was very interesting. And I think just the whole spirit of this album, a metalhead would enjoy. I think they would really enjoy Life Wasted and Worldwide Suicide. But also, if you want a softer, somber song to get into, I have two. The final two songs, Come Back and Inside Job, are absolutely fantastic. I consider Inside Job to be the #1 most beautiful song I've ever heard. Second only to Looking for Heaven off of Tonight Alive's Underworld, which I just talked about in my recent video with a review. But I think that this album would be absolutely fantastic for a metalhead if they're looking for a little bit of a softer listen. It's definitely softer in terms of music, but it's definitely hard-hitting and dark in terms of subject matter. And we are moving on to my last choice. And this last choice is a female-fronted band with a lot of attitude. But I thought this was a perfect way to end, and that is Hailstorms Into the Wildlife. Very heavy, very awesome, but also could be soft in sometimes. Dear Daughter is an absolutely fantastic song. It's a very quiet, piano-based song. Apocalyptic, very sexy song. What Sober Couldn't Say, Jump the Gun, oh my goodness. It's a bonus track on side B. But Jump the Gun here, it's, side B. I think that is a non-metal song that metalheads can definitely get into. And I think this one is a perfect way to kind of end this. So thank you so very much for watching. I was trying to make this as short as possible. Definitely check out Chris's video. I'm going to leave a link to that video in the description below. I definitely have future videos planned. It just so happened that this weekend was 2 response videos. I definitely have another genre showcase coming up for you. Thank you again for watching. I am so very happy. I recently hit 75 subscribers, which flabbergasted me. Maybe I'll do a contest at 100. I don't know if I'll ever hit 100. If I do, I will be absolutely floored. I'm just so very happy that anybody watches my videos. So again, thank you so very much for watching. And as I always say, when the waters get rough, keep on sailing.